Okay, we'll get this party started. Let me just start by thanking our sponsors, Georgetown Cupcake, Prairie Capital, Rachel Pearson Associates, Linens of the Week, the Loyal Friends of Nathan's, and the Amano Store. We couldn't do it without them, so we're very grateful to having them as sponsors. And Brent Glass, welcome.
Thank you.
A little delayed, but it's good to see you. It's good to have you here. Remember to talk in your
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, that's okay. You know, we are a little bit of a Rube Goldberg operation here.
Yes.
You have to do this with this one and that with that one,
That's
but
fine.
somehow we get it done. The word you use is transformed. I've been using renovated. But your redone museum, the
Yes.
Museum of American History, opened, what, 2 weeks ago?
November 21st.
November 21st,
Yes.
open to the public November 21st.
Right.
And how many people have been in since then?
We've had more than 200,000 people.
More than 200,000?
Yes, and it's been tremendous reception.
And this would be
response.
typically a slow time for museums apart from Thanksgiving?
Yes,
This
I
is
think
not-
that Thanksgiving weekend is always a very popular
bit of
time,
a-
but this is unusual to have that kind of response. But we expected it, and we wanted to be open before Thanksgiving and before the holidays, so we expected that.
I was really surprised when I read, as you probably know, NPR is doing or did this whole series on museums. And one of the statistics they had that really floored me was that museums attract more people than sports events.
Yes.
I think sports events were like 150 million and museums are 850 million.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Yeah. Well, I think, how people count attendance
So you mean those
is.
aren't NPR's numbers, those are the museum's numbers?
No, I think it's significant
Right.
that people support and attend cultural
Is that
events.
like even Ripley's Believe It or Not?
Well, I think, but when you add in all the local historical societies and
Yeah.
house museums, and there are thousands out
Okay.
there, and sporting events attract a big audience, like a Penn State football game will get 100,000 people,
Yeah.
but there may be 100,000 people who will visit a few small museums in that
Yeah.
area that will equal that attendance. So I think it's dispersed more around the country, and it doesn't look like such a critical mass unless it's the Smithsonian.
I'm sure the museums would like to have the money that the sports events are getting. When you love to
Yes.
charge $75 a ticket.
Right. Well, I think I don't think we'd get 200,000 visitors in
No,
the first.
no.
But
No. But of that large number,
yes.
what, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, I know you're not the spokesman for the Smithsonian as a whole,
Right.
but do you know what number the Smithsonian gets in a year?
I think the latest number last year was around 24 million visitors
For the museums on the mall.
on the mall, and all this,
and the
including
Air and Space out by Dulles.
right, and the Portrait Gallery and American Art Museum
Right.
and the zoo, which are off the mall, and I think that also includes the two Smithsonian museums in New York, which is the Cooper
Well,
Hewitt.
let's not talk about New York.
Okay,
We're just
well,
gonna focus on Washington. But nothing against New York.
Right.
But of that number,
Yes.
before you closed, how many of that? What percentage of that were?
We
were you
the
number
last
one, two, or three?
We were the third most visited on the mall.
On the
The
mall.
Air and Space Museum
number
and
one.
the Natural History Museum had more visitors.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 years that we were in operation, we had around 3 million visitors in a year.
So are you
per year.
Are you making any comparisons yet? You can't
Yes.
really yet.
Well, we did compare with for example, the first weekend we were open,
Uh-huh.
the 21st or the
Right.
23rd, we had about 78,000 visitors, and that was far more than the
Right.
same period. And then Thanksgiving we had quite a number. But any new museum or any time
You
I think
expect-
yeah.
You're not going to get real numbers yet.
Right. I'm expecting that we will have at least a 10% increase over our last year, 2
Right.
years of operation.
And you're not even done yet.
That's right.
I mean, I think that a lot of people probably would be surprised to walk in and find that the whole museum's not open.
That's right. Well, the museum, we didn't want to be
It's
closed.
quite stunning what you
Yes.
see when you walk in.
But we didn't
but-
want to be closed a day longer than we had to be.
Yeah.
And once we had the Star Spangled Banner Gallery completed,
Mm-hmm.
and once we had the basic architectural changes completed, which is really why we closed,
Yeah.
we wanted to open. And we will open over the next 6 months several exhibits, including the First Lady's exhibit at the end of this month, on December 19th. And then we have a Lincoln Bicentennial exhibit that will open in the middle of January. And then a special gallery devoted to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And then a maritime exhibition. So several exhibitions, maybe another 20,000 square feet of exhibition space will open in the next 5 or 6 months.
The First Lady's exhibit's always been one of my favorites.
Yes.
But I'm curious, did you all have a plan in your back pocket if Hillary Clinton had got the nomination and possibly won the presidency? What you were going to do? Were you going to get a male mannequin and put the man's tuxedo in the
We
museum?
had several ideas that we
Meetings,
talked
right?
about. Yes.
You had to have meetings.
And we had,
you're a
that's
government
right.
entity.
That's right.
So what was the plan?
But we didn't settle on one plan, and it didn't come to fruition.
What
So
would you have envisioned? What do you think would have happened?
well,
Just put a
you really
tuxedo?
put it. This is one of the most difficult questions I think I've had since we've
Well, go
since
for
we've
it.
opened. Well, there are different ways to handle something like that, and I think people are interested in the First Lady's collection, partly as a history of
So
that.
you had the president's evening gown and the first
No, I
husband's
think it's
suit?
the question of this unofficial position in America, which is unelected but has a tremendous importance. And what we tried to do in the exhibit before we closed, and which we still do to a certain extent, is talk about the role of the First Lady or first spouse as a symbol in America of how this person has assumed right from the very beginning. It's not just recently. Right from the very beginning, you look at Abigail Adams or Dolly Madison or any number.
It sounds to me like you were thinking maybe of not putting the man's clothing in.
Probably not.
Probably not.
We might talk about the
Is that
role.
sexism?
No, I think it's more. It's not as much a fashion exhibit, although it is an exhibit about fashion,
okay, well,
as it is about history.
Okay, well
And-
then let me
and-
ask you this.
Yes.
Wouldn't you think then that there would be a place to have, say, the suit that Richard Nixon was wearing when he resigned, or the
Mm-hmm.
sweater Jimmy Carter wore when he talked to the nation, not
Yes.
necessarily
Yes,
successfully?
but that wasn't.
Or-
That's not a fashion
Well-
interest. It's something about the connection of that object
Yeah.
to the event.
So
And
the-
so, yes, I think we would. I think we would really give some serious thought to how we wanted to present, regardless of who it is. And I think in the case of Senator Clinton, it would have been fascinating to have a former president in the role of
First husband.
and a former first lady in the role of president. I mean,
Right.
that's enough for a separate room, a separate gallery. You could do a whole exhibit on that alone.
We are. Before we move on from the first lady,
Yes.
is every first lady represented? Is there a gown?
We have
Is it
an
an inaugural gown or a gown?
a gown or an inaugural gown from every first lady.